Thanks for being here, guys. Today we're going to be looking at the House of the Rising Sun. We're going to be looking at this in two parts. The first part is going to be based on the iconic version by the Animals. We're going to be looking to play exactly like how they play it. And the second part is going to be a lesson on the Tommy Emmanuel fingerstyle version. First, let's look at the chords of this song. This song only uses 6 chords. The A minor, the C, the D, the F, the E, and at the very end of the song they use the D minor as well. When you move from A minor to C, just lift your finger 3 up onto the 5th string on the 3rd fret. You don't need to move your hand. When you play the F, the small F, you can either do it this way, or if you're a beginner, you can do it like that, just the 3 note. Or even with finger 4. I play with finger 4. I find it easier this way, but you can do it like that. Or even the big F. Let's play it through using 2 strums per chord. Let's talk a little bit about the chord changes. When you're playing the chords, try to keep your fingers arched so that you're clearing the strings. So if some of the chords aren't ringing, some of the strings aren't ringing clean, make sure that you are curling the fingers. Also the thumb, the left-hand thumb, plays a really important role in muting out the strings that you don't want to ring. For instance, when you play the A minor, you notice that I have my thumb curled over and muting the 6th string. That's really important because otherwise you get this kind of sound. When you play the D, again, I have my thumb curled and I'm muting 2 strings, the 6th and the 5th string. The same for the F.
One of the first steps when you're learning a song is to memorize the chords and the chord progression. And it's very good to see the patterns, because if you see patterns, then it's much easier to memorize. So we really want to memorize the chord progressions. Naturally, they're divided into 3 sections. We'll call them A, B, and C. So the whole way through the song it goes pattern A, pattern B, pattern C, pattern A, pattern B, pattern C. So you could even think of it as one really long pattern of 22 bars, 8, 8, and 6. But I think chunking it in 3, with A being the instrumental section, B being the first half of the verse, and C being the second half of the verse, is the easiest way to memorize it. Now A, B, and C, they're all 2-line patterns, and the first line of A, B, and C is always the same. It's always A minor, C, D, and F. So if we look at A first, the chords are line 1, A minor, C, D, and F, and line 2, A minor, E, A minor, E. B section, line 1 is the same as before, A minor, C, D, F. And the second line in this case is A minor, C, E, E. Then if we look at the C section, that's the second 2 lines of the verse. We've got, again, A minor, C, D, F, the first line. And the second line is just A minor and E.
So let's now apply a simple 6/8 finger picking pattern to this song. The fingers are always going to be playing on strings 3, 2, and 1. But the thumb is going to jump around a little, playing always the root of the chord, always the lowest sounding note of the chord. So in the case of the A minor, it's going to be the A, the 5th string A. The same for the C. When we play the D or the F, the thumb will play the 4th string. And when we play the E chord, it's going to be the 6th string, the E. So now let's try to get as close as we can get to the way that Hilton Valentine plays in the Animals recording. There are 3 different picking patterns. For the 5-string chord, like the A minor and the C, the picking goes 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, 3. You drag down, and the last 2 notes are up, plucked. The same for the C. The second pattern for the D and for the F, the chords that have 4 strings, you're going to repeat the top string. You repeat the E string. The same for the F. And the last pattern for the E shape, for the E chord, you can pluck 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, 3. Or sometimes he just skips the 5th string like this. That would be like the first pattern. 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, 3. Throughout the recording, there are times where he does one pattern and then it sounds like he does a different pattern, so he changes. But the pattern that comes most often is this: 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, 3. The way that he changes in between the shapes is really interesting because he uses the open string, the open G. And that really helps connecting the chords. Because if you had to hold that note, the A, the last note of the A chord, you get a little gap in between the chords. In the middle of this song, after the 3rd verse, there's an organ solo, and the guitar part, rather than being picked, is strummed. So the pattern is the same, but he is strumming through the chords. So 1, 2, and 3, 1. So there's an up strum there, down, down, up, down, 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 down. And that is throughout the organ solo. And you'll also notice that he's using a big F rather than the small F. Now, it's very important that you master the thumb technique here to mute the strings, because otherwise the strumming is going to get quite bottom heavy. It's going to sound quite thick and muddy. So you really want to curl your thumb and mute out the strings, the bass strings. And you also notice that what I did when I was strumming, in between the changes, I take a little breath, much like when you do when you're picking. Using the open string to change the switch between the chords. Just that little moment of strumming the open strings, that's cool. You can do that and it'll help you with the transitions, and it's going to sound natural and smooth. And we noticed that the way that he plays isn't always regular. Sometimes he will use the open G to switch between the chords, like for instance when he plays a D. Going to an F, but sometimes between the F and the A minor, he'll use the open B. That actually creates a really nice effect. The right hand rhythm isn't always regular. It doesn't seem to always be 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, 3. Sometimes it's in between 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, 3.
I think the thing that's coolest about this song is the Animals weren't so well known at the time when they created them. They were a supporting act for Chuck Berry, and in interviews the lead singer says, all the British bands were trying to out rock and roll Chuck Berry. And he said, like, you just can't out rock and roll Chuck Berry.
Impossible.
So they knew that if they wanted to stand out, they'd have to do something different. And so they took this very powerful folk song and really became like one of the first real folk rock hits of all time, because they knew they had to be unique. And I think that's an important lesson for all musicians, no matter at what level. That it's really your uniqueness which makes makes you stand out, makes your contribution kind of important. And it is such a unique thing. You have this band from Newcastle singing this folky tune, but in a really kind of all-out, crazy rock and roll way. And it just, really captured everyone's imagination, became this massive hit.